And so it begins. My own personal misery. We're revising some gameplay ability related stuff because a lot of it is just straight up a mess. We also updated the engine version from 5.4 to 5.5. I was a little too quick with that though. And I updated this without checking if all the plugins that I have installed are up to date. And most plugins didn't really have any issues. Let me put away something real quick. Holy hell, my headphone cord is getting caught on something. 1 moment. Yeah, so most plugins didn't really have any issues, even though they're not officially 5.5 supported. They build and they compile properly for 5.5. The most important one, though, being blockout tools, straight up refused to work. So I need to wait for the actual developer to update that into 5.5. I tried messing around with a couple of things myself, but there's just something that plugin seems to use, which is legitimately just straight up different in 5.5 as far as like the code goes in the engine itself. So it's probably going to take at least a few days, I imagine, if not more, before that plugin is up to date. Until which time I do not have blockout tools, which means that I cannot work on anything involving levels that use blockout tools. Which effectively means that I'm stuck in this map over here. Which is fine because we can do all the testing here. I actually finally added some stuff here so that we have the item display and everything else in here as well. So we can test everything in here. There's also, this icon is different now. Simulate this level within the, oh, that's kind of neat. Huh. Welcome everybody joining in. There's also 5.5. There's a new background in the blueprint editor. I hope you guys like that. Well, it's not new, it's just like a very slightly different tint of grey. I upgraded mostly because I want to be able to use skeletal meshes with nanite, potentially. I want to test out whether or not that is going to change much in terms of performance. I'm assuming that it will, because some of my skeletal meshes get pretty high up there. And for mega lights, because I have some lighting situations that are only going to get worse, that perform like shit. So hopefully that's going to be better. For now, though, we are going to focus a bit on C++ land over here, because I set up this project when first kind of messing around with gameplay ability. And it's a bit of a mess as a result, because that was like a year ago at this point. So not a good time, necessarily. What I have is I have two entirely separate attribute sets. One for the player, and then I also have one somewhere in here. It's probably in the enemy folder, I imagine. Maybe not. Is it just... might be in here somewhere. Enemy attribute set. So I have a player attribute set, which has all these attributes, and I have an enemy attribute set, which has all of these attributes. You might note that both of them contain health and max health, as well as things like mana and something like strength and defense, and this one has like defense and max defense. To be fair, this actually is like straight up differently used, so I'm not going to have it shared defense. But things like the just damage value probably can be shared, I want to say. I don't think things like knockback and weight necessarily need to be set as attributes. So we can probably get rid of those. So there's a little bit of reworking done here. And we can finally also start implementing like built-in clamping for things like health and mana, to clamp to their max mana value and their max health value. So that's all that we're gonna go ahead and do. There's a lot of people joining in today. That's kind of cool. I don't like gas. You are wrong. It is a bit of a mess, I will admit, to initially get into. But like once you get into it and you kind of like get the weird way that it works, because it works in weird ways. Like the way that it communicates entirely through tags is a bit of a headache. I don't personally love that. But once you get really like into that mindset, it does save you a lot of like having to build your own system for it. So do you really need to set up gas with CPP with the current version 5.5? I think nothing changed for gameplay ability in 5.5 because I think you still can't make an attribute set in Blueprint. Let me check. Oh, maybe you can. Attribute set. Let's see. Is that a thing we can do? Property, none. Maybe we can. Setting up attribute sets was always an issue in Blueprint, but maybe we can do that now. That's an attribute set. That would be. So yeah, that is the issue. I think is. It's gameplay attribute data. That's not exposed to Blueprint, I believe. I think there's plugins that just make those things Blueprint able. Gameplay attributes. Yeah, you see that those don't exist here because you have to define them with some macros in here. So it's not as easy as just adding them as a variable. At least not by default. Again, I think there's plugins that kind of take this and just allow you to make that. And maybe you can actually make it as an asset. Hold on. Because that would make more sense. Nope. I think without C++ you lose custom attribute tag triggers of gas. Yeah, so you can definitely still make use of the plugin, right? But there's a handful of things that you cannot make use of, like custom attributes. And an important one as well would be get ability system components. This interface you cannot implement in Blueprint. This is an interface that you can only implement in C++. And it's actually quite a relevant one to implement to like keep your code like fluid and like scalable. So that's something that you want to implement in C++. Getting your attributes, which like if you don't have attributes set up, like half the system falls apart because suddenly gameplay effects are kind of useless. So at that point, you can only make abilities, which is still nice to be able to do, but Anyway, all that said, we're going to make... Hold on. Would you make use of gas for replicating multiple weapons, holstering system, or is it better to go custom class? That kind of depends. Like the weapons themselves don't really like play into it. If the weapons have different abilities, then like mapping those abilities as like some variables on those weapons. But you wouldn't make like an ability that is a weapon. You would make a weapon that then has those abilities, so that when you equip that weapon, you can run abilities that like are stored on the weapon. So if your different weapons have different abilities like assigned to them or like corresponding to them, that's where gas might come in handy. That's how I do it, right? I have this normal sword, and then I can like switch to this scythe. And it has like different attacks between the two of them. and it has like this, like, oh, what the fuck is happening? It has this like special ability where if I press the Z button, the sword just does this ability where it like teleports around and whatever. But if I'm holding the scythe, it does this attack where it pulls in enemies towards you and then like ruins the day. That's because the character's just saying to the weapon, hey, run your special attack ability, and then the weapon itself runs the ability that is assigned to its variable called special attack. And those abilities then are just gameplay ability classes. Let's make a new C++ class though. In here. So we add a Unreal class. But for visuals like weapon and character back, does it make sense? If that's the only difference between your weapons, no. Because the weapons aren't abilities. The weapons is that's just a static mesh. So if the only difference between one sword and the other is what it looks like, and maybe a couple of like basic stats like how much damage it deals and that kind of stuff, using gameplay ability doesn't really make sense for that. Can I look through here, please? Yes. Attribute sets, and we'll call this base attribute sets. Which I'll just put in the row, that's fine. And I'm going to copy over some code because it's been a while since I made an attribute set. So first we define a couple of macros, which I forget what they do, but they do something. And they're needed, so there we go. And then we, from the player... Okay, so the base set is going to have health and max health. I think we can agree on that, right? Oh, and then we, of course, change this around to... what's the issue? Type U ability system component is incomplete. That's because the attribute set itself needs to include the component. It does. Why does it have a breakpoint at core minimal? That doesn't seem right. Okay, that fixes that. So instead of inheriting from the attribute set, both of these are going to be inheriting from the base attribute set, which is going to need an include. Base attribute, what did I call it? Just base attribute set, right? So I have an enemy and a player attribute set. Both of them are health and mana. Is there a problem with that because you started dead? Yeah, so I just kind of started making two different attribute sets without thinking this through too much, but it's just kind of annoying because when I make a I have to make separate like gameplay effects to damage enemies versus damaging players, and I've run into the issue where I make an effect that has to do with like taking mana or taking HP away from either a player or an enemy. And I accidentally select the wrong attribute and it doesn't work and everything just like explodes. Well, nothing explodes, just nothing happens instead. And there's no real good reason for that, as well as I say, like there's things like receive, knockback, and knockback. Like, that's not needed to be an attribute at all. Because we'll just use normal, like regular variables for that. Not even variables, just like passing them in as parameters, really. So yeah, we have the strength and the defense. These, I believe, are just levels. So I don't think we necessarily need things like strength either, right? Like we either need strength or we need damage on the player. Because these effectively will do the same thing, right? Damage might be a product of strength, and I think what I did is I made damage a product of strength, and then the like individual base damage for attacks, but we are also dealing with that differently. So I think I can get rid of damage as well here. And suddenly we only have a handful of like player-specific things. So that is strength and defense, which we're going to put together because it makes more sense that way to me. And then we've got mana and max mana because those are player-specific. Then we can go, oh, these are the player attribute set. That's fine. Then we have the enemy attribute set, which also had a health and a max health. At some point in my life, I had the idea of giving enemies mana as well, so that their abilities would cost mana sometimes, and that they would only be able to do certain abilities if they have the mana for it. But I found that just putting them on a timer works way better and is way less of a headache to design. So defense is something different for enemies than it is for players, because for players defense is just reduction of incoming damage. For enemies defense is a secondary like damage bar that needs to be depleted first before you can get to their HP. Then damage is their base damage for an attack, which I think is going to be a per ability type of thing, so we probably don't need that as an attribute. And then their weight and then knockback I'm going to get rid of as well. So again, very much simplifies things a lot to get rid of these things, right? But now we're going to be adding things. That can only go well, because my player attribute set, this is the base attribute set, my player attribute set is also going to need a new type of thing here, because we're going to be adding a attribute called piercing damage. So I probably could have just used the damage value for that. But let's just name things properly. It's going to have piercing damage. So I want to be able to set piercing damage so that I can create like temporary buffs and stuff like that allow you to damage the HP directly a little bit more before depleting the defense bar properly. So some abilities might have some more piercing damage, which allows me to just have a little bit more control over making abilities do slightly different things, right? So that's a thing that I wanted to add. And but the question is, no, because I want to be able to. The question is, does that need to be an attribute, or is that just something that I do on a per ability basis? But I also want the piercing damage to be able to be like multiplied by gameplay effects, because the idea that I had is making a gameplay effect, like making a gameplay ability rather, that applies a gameplay effect that will just increase your piercing damage for like the next 90 seconds or something like that. And that's easily done with a game. So this may be not the actual piercing damage. This might be more so piercing damage multiplier, is what I'm thinking. Because the actual piercing damage that we do... This is a good question. Do I want this to be a multiplier of the piercing damage? So if we... Usually if you don't have... the defense bar depleted, yeah, the piercing damage that you're going to do is going to be 1. If this is a multiplier, and I say, hey, piercing damage is going to be multiplied by 2.5, you only do 2.5 damage every time you hit. Which is fine, I guess. However, if we make this additive, we can say you do your usual piercing damage amount plus like 15. So you're hitting for 16 every time you hit through the defense. In the end, it actually is kind of the same thing. Isn't it? Except if you have... No, it's not really. Because if you have an ability, like a specific attack that itself has more piercing damage, which would be a value that like every attack that needs to fill out, and you multiply that, like let's say the piercing damage on a certain ability itself is already 10, and we're multiplying that by 2.5, suddenly you're doing 25 piercing damage. But if it's additive and we're adding 10, we're only doing, what did I say, 10? So we're only doing 20. So it does scale differently between different types of attacks. So additive seems like it might make more sense. Does anybody in chat, number 1, follow what the hell I'm even rambling on about? And number 2, have particularly like opinions about this? Because I'm not quite decided on what piercing damage is going to be like. If I'm going to do... If there's going to be a value that just gets directly subtracted from the HP, or if there's going to be a thing that multiplies the value that's going to get subtracted from the HP. Part of me is thinking that additive is also just easier to program. With less like, if this, then that, then that, then that, then that. So I'm kind of talking myself into making this additive and not multiplicative. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to go with for now. Unless anybody in chat has like a very good reason otherwise, which is part of the reason that I'm live streaming this kind of stuff. So yeah, we have piercing damage. That's, I think, the rework as far as like changing around these things. So now we go back into the base attribute set, but we go into the CPP file. No, we actually don't yet. What we do is we... And now I need to think what this function is called again. I think it is void on... No, it is post attribute change. There we go. Is it post attribute change or post base attribute change? I think it's post... Well, both of them. Attribute change will fire if I change the base value as well, right? For all of these, I'm changing the base value anyway, I think. Yeah, let's go base change. Or I can just do posts like gameplay effect execute. But that doesn't actually work for... Yeah, that doesn't work for things that have a duration. So yeah, post attribute changed. I think we want the base attribute change. We're gonna figure this out, I'm sure. Let's implement that. So we have the attribute. The old value and the new value. The only thing that we really care about right now is... I guess what we need to do... is we need to then check whether or not the attributes... name. So we need to check that. Equals, oh, hold on, the attribute is the way better way to do this. We can just check whether or not the attribute reference that we are giving in is the same as health. Right? No? This is a attribute reference. This is a... Oh, this is attribute data. Oh, it is because we need to get health. There we go. Surely. Oh, that just gets a float. What the fuck? Get health. Oh, get health attribute. That's the one that we want. Okay. So if the attribute that we're changing here is the health attribute, what we want to do is we want to setting new value, which we probably want to do this before, actually, not after, because the post attribute change parent is the thing that is going to actually set the values, right? Can we see the implementation of this, please? I would very much like to see the actual code for this one. I guess we can just try to find the CPP file that corresponds to this, but rather not. Navigate to implementation. Yeah, that navigates me to my base attribute set. That's definitely like not what I'm looking for though. I don't think it knows where it is. Anyway, I think this is the way to do it. If it's not, we'll figure it out, I'm sure. Right? So new value equals math clamp floats. New value between 0 and get max health. Yeah, that seems about right. Overriding function. It's not a virtual specifier. I guess we might as well, right? In case we do want to. Well, yeah, we definitely are going to want to override this in other attribute sets, actually. Because what we want to do is then in the player attribute set, we need to do the same thing for mana. So let's copy the declaration of that thing and then do it in there as well. So we have the player attribute sets. Nope. Yes. I think that's how that works anyway. I don't. We'll figure it out. If attribute is equal to get mana attribute, we set new value, we'll do the exact same thing. But for mana in the player attribute set, right? So we like just do that. Defense and strength, piercing damage, we don't need to do anything like that for. And the enemy attribute set, I guess we might as well implement something like that for. That's not what I wanted to do. I guess we might as well implement something like that for the defense, just to be like thorough. But we're never going to like have the defense be beyond the max value of it. But I guess I guess that does stop us from accidentally making a situation where we give something a starting value of like 500 defense while the max is only 100. So I suppose that's nice. What about a value of an attribute less than 0? So that is also like, it's clamping it between the two of them. And I suppose you could worry about the defense or the strength or the piercing damage or the whatever. Getting assigned a value of less than 0. But they won't. Because these are only going to be set through like a curve that goes from 1 to like whatever. So like 1 or 0 is going to be the minimum value of that curve. It's going to be higher than 0 actually. So if I somehow manage to provide in a like level -10 for these, it'll just assign the value of like the first key in that curve. And aside from that, these are just going to get set by level up. Oh, for mana and health, that's also dealt with this clamping, right? So what it does is it sets this new value and it clamps it. So it clamps new value between 0 and max health. So it can only, like, at worst, it will be 0. And even if it is less than 0, that doesn't matter that much, because in all cases, you're probably, like, if you're checking for something to have died, for mana, that's one thing. And I think gameplay ability automatically clamps attributes to 0 anyway. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think it does. But if you're checking for something to have died, you always want to check if something is less than or equal to anyway. You don't want to check just equal to 0, because that's how you get yourself into problems. A lot of like old retro games have that issue where if you go below 0 and they for some reason did use a like assigned integer or whatever, or using a float for the health, you would go into like negative health and never be able to die. Or also funny, if they used a unsigned integer, you would go up to the integer limit, which at the time was like 2 million or whatever. Well, depending on how retro you go, it might have been 255. Or what would be after 255 as an integer limit? Like 12,000 something, I think, maybe. I don't know. I'm sidetracking myself. So yeah, we were gonna do this for defense as well. That's what we're doing. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Why does this thing have a constructor? I don't care. So attribute equals defense attribute. We clamp it between new and yeah, okay. So that should be everything we have to do as far as attributes go. Now, when I compile this, a lot of my shit is gonna break. So let's do it. This is scary. Effectively, all my gameplay effects are going to... What? Oh, these are... I guess I might as well make these public. And then this should probably be in protected. It's given me an error about a make file, and it's just straight up not a good time seeing that thing appear every time. It doesn't prevent me from building, but it does make me worry. Oh, no. There's a lot of things going wrong there. Okay, let's see what the issues are. Macro redefinition. That makes sense. We don't need to redefine those macros. So we have the player attribute sets, we have the enemy attribute set, can remove those. You can never make a project too broad. Now, you severely underestimate my ability to do what the hell? So it was whining about it redefining before, and now does my enemy attribute set not? Yeah, my enemy attribute set doesn't inherit from base attribute, that's why. Which is also probably... why it was complaining about other, like, compiling errors a moment ago. So this should have fixed most of the... Nope! Damage is... Oh, hold on. Why? Damage is not a member of... Oh, that's damage player. Oh, yeah, but we're not using this anymore. Because this is a painful fucking way to do it. We've entirely, like, rewritten everything about this. So, I might as... Oh, I'm sorry. I might as well just remove this file, to be honest. So yeah, that's damage player, that's damage player, that's in damage player, damage player, damage enemy. Which we've also changed around. So I'm just gonna empty out all the code in this for now, and then we'll maybe remove the files later, once I can be sure that everything's like compiled. But we're not using either of these anymore. I've split that up into like other classes that aren't. So this is gonna give me an error because there's like an issue here. I had no return statement. I guess that's fine then. They didn't need a return statement there after all. Sure. Engine starting up. I'm happy. I don't care. Once the engine boots up and everything is like good to go there, I think we're pretty much good. Okay. I'm just, for shits and no giggles, gonna test out whether or not this somehow has linked up. Yes, it has not. Okay. Not even a little bit. Because it thinks, yeah, it thinks everything is 0 HP, and for some reason my mana bar is all kinds of messed up as well. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we need to to rework. Most importantly, I think, is the starting data for our characters. So, and then the like display for those things. So let's get working on those first. We have the ability system, starting data for the player, because this is referring to the player attribute set, which should be the base attribute sets for all this. And then we also need to set piercing damage in a moment, but mana, max mana, strength, and defense are still the same. And let's add a new row. Gas player attribute sets dot piercing damage. And then the base value for these are going to be like just 1. I wonder if they finally implemented something for the min and the max value in this update. Probably not. But yeah, that should improve all that. Now, the real thing is in the HUD. Don't worry when you see how much of a mess this blueprint is. I know. And it's not this part. It's, yeah, that part. Because we're getting attributes, max health, and all that kind of stuff. These attributes no longer exist, so it's kind of funny that it doesn't even like error anything out. But oh, these are hooked up to a bunch of shit, aren't they? Oh, not that bad. They still have the same names. So maybe now that I'm initializing them, they just work. Okay, fantastic. The only thing that could damage me was that thing. So, please damage me. Okay, they don't actually damage me. But that might be an issue on their end. And not mine. It definitely is because yeah, okay. No, it's not. Well, it kind of is. Let's look at the applied damage code, right? So when we get damage applied, we do knockback, which seems to be working fine because it's no longer related to any of that stuff. The base... Oh, it does actually just straight up change this to base attribute system health. Huh. Well, that makes sense because the other guys did die when I just touched them. That means that there's going to be a lot of fucking data tables that I need to go over and change the names of attributes. We'll be fine. This is instant heal? It's just a negative number for instant heal, I guess. Base damage minus defense is the actual damage. So yeah, I think that might be the issue, is that we don't have an instant... Well, I wasn't entirely sure how GameDevCave were going to deal with the fact that I'm now referring to like technically different attributes, but it seems to actually be replacing the things that said gas attribute set.health with base attribute set.health fairly easily. So only things that are like specifically referred to by name, such as these entries in this data table over here, are going to be like needing replacement, I think. But all that said, this instant health, yeah, so this is, I don't know why. Gameplay effect, damage, player health. I don't know why this isn't working, except, oh no, I do. No, I don't. Okay, now this is actually weird. Let's print out the base damage that I'm getting when I get hit, because that should, by all accounts, just work, I think. Yeah, so it does... Huh. Does it eventually kill me? I don't think it's subtracting my health at all. Yeah, it's not subtracting my health. Why isn't it not subtracting my health? Because it does have its damage value. Kind of nice that they give the like function inputs this icon in 5.5. That's a little addition. Yeah, so it's not... Oh, hold on, is it because... No, it's base attribute, health, add, negative, linear curve. Oh, we still have like a thing happen here. Player checkpoint here. What the hell is going on with any of that? I think that might have been the way that I dealt with clamping before, so that might be interfering with it. Yep, that's what was interfering with it. Okay, so our player gets damaged. And eventually, and this is going to probably be an issue, and eventually will die when I get hit enough, because it's still reading that via the way you imagine it would be. So I think at this point, the only thing that I need to change, legitimately, might be just a couple of like fields in some data tables. Oh yeah, it doesn't kill me because it kills me through like the game mode. I specifically set that up so that it doesn't like ruin me in this test map. So yeah, no, that's actually that's good. Most of the enemies in the game at this point use this data table anyway, because I'm too lazy to set up other stuff. But as you can see, it says enemy attribute health. But if I just change this to base attribute set for health and like max health, and then I take out the mana, the weight, and the knockback because we're not using that anymore, everything else seems to just function. So let's see if this... I think this just... Yeah. There we go. And this works 1000% the way you would expect it to. Almost. Where did that go wrong? Assertion failed attribute get. Yeah, but what attribute did I... It had to do with the thing dying, I think. Must have. It must have had to do with the thing dying. So that logically would be something that is present on the base enemy blueprint class. So let's take a look at that next. Also, I don't think we saved the data table. So, we'll actually open it up just like this again. That's fine. Did we save the data table? We might have saved the data table. We did. Okay, cool. Let me just put that on another screen real quick. There we go. Yeah, base enemy. Let's see if there's anything about its damage events that might be fucked up. Damage, not damage, enemy base. Main screen, please. Update damage box. I don't think we used it anymore. I think we do that through interface now. Maybe. We should. But it's not there. So maybe we do use that still. Maybe I just haven't... Oh no, we're not using damage boxes at all anymore. That's... Yeah, it's been a turbulent couple of weeks, to say the least. There's been a lot of things that I've reworked. I used to have like physical collider boxes on all of my enemies and all of my weapons. And I decided to, you know what, let's not do that. I'm going to go over to like just momentary sphere traces, because that feels a lot more consistent at different frame rates. And it also leads more to people feeling like they just about dodged an attack instead of just about getting hit by an attack, which is just more satisfying for the player. So yeah, applied damage. Apparently you can also make those tabs do things. Sure. So on death, it must be something to do with this, because it checked the attributes. Oh, it might be fucking up here. It might be self attributes, enemy attribute set, health attributes. No, that should That should work. Let's try to disconnect this real quick. Or more specifically, disconnect that real quick. Just to see if it still messes up. And then we will reconnect it, and if it crashes again, we know that it's that part. That does the problematic part. So, no. I think it's trying to get an attribute somewhere that doesn't exist anymore. And that attribute is probably knockback. Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I think what I'm doing, yeah, I think that's what might be happening. I think what I'm doing in my attack ability is I'm trying to get or set the knockback value, because that's how I used to do things, because stupid. So if we just go like sword attack base, I think it might be in this. So let's take a look at that. So yeah, we cast it there, then we update damage. So yeah, we don't need to do that anymore either. So let's get rid of that. And then we update knockback. But yeah, updating knockback isn't really a thing. But still looking for attribute name knockback. So, matter of fact, let's just remove update knockback as a gameplay effect altogether. It's referenced in a few places. But we don't need that anymore. So just force delete it everywhere. And that's going to probably scream at me when I try to open up or run the game, but that'll give me good references to where I need to change nodes around. So there was... Why did you just crash? Fucking null reference? This is an engine issue. This is not a me issue. That was not a me issue. I don't think. Anyway, how is everybody watching this doing? We're making good progress, but how are you doing with your projects? And how many of them use gameplay ability? And how many of you are depressed because of it? The answer is 100%. Let's try again. Did we or did we not? Where the fuck even is the thing that I was just working on? The sword attack base. This one. This is the most important thing. We can also actually just remove this node. Can remove... no, keep that. Hold on, that's not what I... Yeah. This feels like it's a cause for concern that that's there, but we'll take it down. It's fine. It'll be fine. The thing that I want to check is if the things that I deleted here, yeah. So these don't need to exist anymore. That gameplay class is gone. This no, it doesn't need to exist anymore. Which, to be honest, makes his entire setup a little bit smaller, so that's good. Working on your targeting system now. I'm hoping that you find it to your liking. I still need to implement it myself. That's like... that's kind of bad, right? I made a tutorial because it's partly something that I needed to do in my own project, and I haven't implemented it yet. So in my project... right now, it just does a check for closest to the center of the screen. It doesn't do the weightedness to it at all. Still need to implement all that. But there's a million things that I need to do. So it's not been a priority necessarily. I'm trying to figure out if it is possible to open closed doors with gameplay ability. I don't know that you should maybe use gameplay ability for that. The doors are static meshes. I think it's not possible. It's better to use server, RPC, and multiplayer. I mean, I get trying to do it with gameplay ability because that deals with replication for you, but I don't know that you want to do that for everything that needs to be replicated, necessarily. Feels like for that you definitely want to just like replicate it through normal means. But hey, if you can figure it out with gameplay ability, it does save you a little bit of a headache, I guess. Because I guess what you're looking for is the animation to play through an ability so that it replicates around more easily. But that only works if it's a skeletal mesh, because you need to run it as a montage. And then it might get automatically replicated through. But then everything that moves would need to be a skeletal mesh, which also seems like maybe not the best way to do it. Depending on how, I don't know. So yeah, let's try that again. This time without everything crashing, hopefully. Can we deal damage to this dude? Still crashes, but it crashes... Okay, this is actually interesting. It crashes consistently at the same attack. With the same issue. So it does something with the third attack in the combo, which is the exact same blueprint with just different parameters. So that doesn't make any sense. Oh, unless that, no, because I just removed that from the base. Why would the third attack be the thing that crashes me, man? Is there something like bind on velocity change default in engine? I don't think so. Not that I know. That's a fantastic question. I don't think so. I wish there was an easier way to like bind to variable changes in general. That would be useful. You can do it through like trickery. I made a video on it a while ago. You can do it through some trickery with like your own made variables. But that's not really going to help you here, is it? Let me check. Velocity changed? No, I don't think there is. Maybe on the character movement component? Nope. No, I don't think there is. Which kind of makes sense because, I mean, your velocity, unless you're standing still, is most likely constantly slightly changing throughout the game. So I don't think it would be that much more optimal to have like a bound delegate to that compared to just checking the velocity on tick or on a timer. But yeah, just generally like being able to bind to a value changing would be very nice. In a like easier and less hacky way. Okay. Sword attack 3 is the thing that's messing me up, right? So sword attack 3. I called it SA because I want to get cancelled apparently. I think it's this one. Oh, this is also kind of nice. Is it new in 5.5? The fact that you can like preview sounds as like variables? I don't think it was that a thing before. Neat. So yeah, it has this like knockback value, which you might think, okay, that's what's given the issue, but I don't think I'm setting the knockback anywhere anymore, so that surely can't be it. Rep notifying the AI maybe to give me a tick. I mean, rep notify works, but you can't do that on pre-existing variables, right? So if you're going to do that, you would need to set your vector to the actual velocity every tick anyway, at which point just check the velocity on tick. Or you can set this to rep notify, but this is one that I made. I can't very well go into... You might be able to go into like the C++ code and add a rep notify to it though. But there's also a really good chance that it's going to implode in your face. So yeah, we cast the weapon, and we clear some timers. We clear 2 timers, weapon visibility and combo timer, that makes sense. Disable input, we play a sound, we play a weapon sound. We play a montage, all of which have values given in. I guess this guy doesn't have slash particles, but surely that's not the issue. I mean, it should have slash particles. Wait a second, is it... Am I looking at the right one to begin with? Let's look at the player sword. I think it's this one. That's X. Dash 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is the third run. So it is this one. Yeah, it is. Then we'll wait for a gameplay event. Surely that's not the issue. For when the attack starts. I don't know why that's a gameplay event, but sure. Increase attack counter. That's a bool. That makes sense. Gets the attack counter and increases it. That makes sense. It checks for the validity of the closest enemy, because if it is not valid, we just... We don't set the actor rotation toward that. That makes sense. So we just go forward. We wait for gameplay events. And only if we hit a target do we apply damage to it. Then we reset the time dilation. Okay. We're gonna need to bake in some things so that we don't damage our own like spawned in enemies, like our like little summon thralls, but we'll worry about that later. Here it checks. Oh, it might be on endability actually. No, because it... Hold on. We can troubleshoot this, right? We can troubleshoot this. It might be to do with the third attack animation. Because it does start the animation, and only when it starts moving forward with the slash does it crash. So it would follow that it's either to do with some code that triggers like after this or whatever, or it is to do with a thing in the animation. Spawn particle. Sword slash... Oh yeah, that makes sense. When I target an AI, I want its distance, but when the AI chose to move, I want the AI to update the value. The only way moving AI is use tick. So I need to use tick. If you're just updating like a vector, not even a vector, just a distance, it kind of depends. If you have like hundreds of vectors, that might become an issue. But aside from that, it seems like maybe like not that big a deal to just let that happen every tick. Or otherwise just on a timer. Because every tick can add up. But what is actually like a neat little trick is if you have a class and you set things on like a timer, right? You set things on a timer. We're going full powered software here. instead of doing it on tick, but you just do a timer like every like 0.1 second. So 10 times a second for most things, that is plenty enough. If you wait with starting that timer, so we have like a delay node before we start that timer, and that delay is delayed on a random time between 0, so 0.0 and 0.1. That will also then mean that whenever these things run, if you have very high frame rates, they also don't necessarily all then start updating on the same frame, giving you the same like bottleneck. They will randomly be distributed across the different frames to update their values on. So that might also be a help. This is a kind of like hacky way to do it. The best way to do it is to manually group them into groups and like offset their update time so that they manually are decide like, okay, so you're an update group and you're an update group and you're an update group, and then have another actor run the timer so that's only one timer updating a whole bunch of actors, and then another timer updating a whole bunch of actors, and those timers are offset so that that's even more optimal. You need to add one more actor, but then you can eliminate like fucking 100 timers, which obviously adds up way more. But for a hacky solution, just like giving everything a timer that runs 10 times a second and then offsetting when those timers start can be a good way to like keep away from bottlenecking every like 10th of a second, 100 actors updating at the same time. But again, with how easy the code that you're running from just a distance check is, I don't think it's going to be a problem anyway. So yeah, this animation notify is on here, but I don't think it's an animation notify that does anything weird. I want timer, but I need to start the timer only when the AI starts moving. I don't want all targeted actors to start their timers. I mean, you can just, depending on how your movement code works, what you can do is you can just, like, when you tell something to start moving, that's when you start the timer with the update code, like, linked to it. And when they stop moving, like, if you're talking about, like, them being active, in which case it's probably just better to do this on a behavior tree anyway, as, like, a service. So yeah, that's probably what you want to do. It kind of depends on what you mean by start moving, because if you have, like, an enemy that has, like, just a patrol behavior, so it walks from here to here, and you only want it to, like, update its location as it's moving, but when it, like, just rests here for a couple of seconds, for it not to update its location, I think you might be over-engineering it a little bit. But if what you're referring to is, like, you have an enemy that's all the way the fuck over here, like, at the other side of, like, a whole, like, tunnel system, where your player, like, this dude's just not active yet, and only when you get within, like, this area does this dude start, like, actually running his behavior tree, which that is, like, entirely fine. At that point, just, like, update that value through its behavior tree. I think is the best way to do that, because it's likely going to be a value that you, like, want to access through the behavior tree anyway, right? Or does the normal code need access to it as well? Which is possible. You can, like, get a blackboard value and that kind of stuff, but like, the entire thing that I just was rambling about, that's just, like, built in with services anyway. Just, like, well, not really, but more or less. So yeah, what is the actual issue with this? Because we have, what is it called? Notify spawn particle? Spawn... Hello? Oh, it's in 3D. Okay, so... Spawn particles... This is literally just spawn some particles, man. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the issue. Moreover, I'm still going to stuck on the distancing thing, right? You definitely want to. Still, I'm not entirely sure like what you're looking for, but if you're like looking for a character that's like moved from there to there, and then while standing still, you definitely still want him to update his distance to the player, because the player can move, right? Like if this dude is standing still, and I move this direction, he needs to update his distance value. So I have to assume that you were like looking into the ladder when an enemy is just not yet like activated, in a manner of speaking, when it's just standing around and it's like not doing its patrolling thing yet. But if that is the case, just like go into behavior tree and like put the like value updating service into a part of the behavior tree where it's only like when it's active. Will it run that? So, going back to why the fuck does my game crash at attack 3? That's the thing that we were looking into, right? So, attack 1, attack 2, attack 3. Oh, it actually didn't crash there. So, it's attack 1, attack 2, attack 3, attack 4. Is it only when attack 3 connects? Because that will be even weirder, but it at least would give us a... It's not particularly... so what the fuck is it? Pass by rough thing word great. Nice. Hit damage event on the third is equal to all attacks, first and second attacks. Yeah, it's a total of the exact same ability. So there's like no actual reason... And it's not specifically the third attack, because just now I hit something else and it also crashes. But they run the exact same ability, just with like different values. There's nothing specifically, aside from the animation, there's nothing different between the attacks. So I don't really know what's going wrong there, to be honest. Let's take a look if we can find anything in the log file. It's probably going to just say the same thing. Assertion field get, yeah. But maybe what happened before that. So we... Gameplay effect knockback. Oh, it might be... Oh, could it be the knockback ability? Does that still use the gameplay effect? So, hold on. Gameplay... It might not have been the third attack. It might just be whenever they start receiving knockback is when they die. When it crashes. Yeah, ability none. That's it. So, what we do is... yeah, we get ability level. Oh, it's not even knockback, it's weight. I still had a weight value on this. Well, that's a good thing to take a look at. So on the enemy, like C++ class itself, will have a knockback multiplier, so that we can set it simply like to 0 when we don't want anything to have knockback, or a higher value, or whatever. So that's the way we'll do that. We figured it out. Enemy H. Fucking just put it in here somewhere. U property. Add it anywhere. I guess default only. Let's do default. Let's do anywhere. I can't make up my mind. Blueprint. Let's do read write as well. Float. Knock back. multiplier. Why do you not like that? Knockback multiplier has already been defined. Okay. Hold on. Knockback multiplier. Where is it? Do I really have 2 declarations of that shit? Oh, I fully do. Well, this is the new one. Don't know if I'm using it anywhere, but that, I guess that's fixed now. And this needs to be not misspelled. Is what that needs to be. Any damage thing or a collision thing. Yeah, so it's neither. It's just a knockback thing. Disable third attack and add the second 2 more times. Yeah, no, we just ran into, and that's how I figured this out. We just ran into the thing where it's not the third attack. It's just the third attack just happens to be where he runs out of defense and starts being knocked back. Type in word knockback. No, there's not. What the fuck are you talking about? Shut up. It's just not. But does that mean that this has get knockback? Nope. We need to recompile real quick. Seems like somebody in the house is fucking my internet up again. So hopefully they can cut it out before I go and lose my mind. As I pick up a screwdriver, that's wildly threatening for no reason. And let's see. I'm surprised with how smoothly all this is going so far. This is the first real issue where we had to look at it for more than a second. Also because I keep getting distracted by talking about timers and stuff. Get knockback multiplier, please. So we, instead of dividing this, we multiply it. And then we put that into there and into there, I think. Knockback origin, yeah, I think that'll solve everything. So let's try again. 1, 2. I don't know why it was doing the third attack, because it definitely takes longer for the knockback to start functioning, but it definitely was to do with the knockback. So yeah, sometimes just actually looking at the logs and not just at the crash log helps an awful lot. This guy, for instance, should have a knockback multiplier of 0 because he's supposed to be stuck on the ground. So, we just don't want him to have knockback. But we still want him to have knockback animations. Yeah, so I think that just straight up means that we can ignore that error, please. Because it's pending kill or destruction, as it was trying to do in animation. That's fine. Yeah, so I think we changed around all the gameplay ability stuff that I wanted. So now we have a basis to keep working on some more magic spells and stuff. Because everything works a little bit better now. That only took about an hour and a half, even less. Could have done that within an hour. I guess that means that we're going to move on to doing some other stuff. And that other stuff being the animations for my dude's attacks, which are somewhere, surely. I think this is an enemy's ground, zombie, gameplay ability, attack left, attack right, all those places. Yeah, so we have the animation here. I just need to add in the notify for it. Which would be right here. So we remove this and that. And we change this to a notify for, what did I call it again? Enemy damage sphere. There we go. So position delta would be a little bit forward in the X. A little bit more forward in the X. Does the position delta even do anything? Oh, yes, it does. So let's say like 60. I mean, that's pretty good. Maybe 75 and then the radius. Ah, that's pretty good actually. Let's copy that over and bring it to montage for the right attack. The upside is that the enemies can now only like actually damage the player during one frame of their animation, which means that it's so much easier to dodge them. Which is a good thing because they were like a little unfair in how absolutely like bonkers they were in their ability to damage you. That said, though, I think this one I'm going to give a bigger damage sphere because, yeah, I think this requires a bigger damage sphere. So this is probably going to get a radius of like 150 and then be, well, set to about 150 in front. I think that'll, yeah, that does a much better job. The animation's also kind of goofy and not really well made. Then we still have one more to do. And that's the appearing attack. Which effectively I think will still be more or less the same values as the other attacks. Most attacks, turns out, just one on the same damage box pretty much does it. I'm going to put this one, I'm going to do something funny. I'm going to put this one up a little higher. And I think that kind of does it. So now, in theory, the zombie wasn't able to damage me before. It should now. There's one little issue now. The location deltas in world space. Didn't think about that. Did not think about that at all. That's actually a really good question. How are we going to do that? Oh, it's because yeah, that's because I'm using the wrong fucking thing, isn't it? Forward offset should be like 100. I'm using forward offset. That one is in local, like directional space. But for some reason, this dude... What? His forward vector is that direction, because reasons? Well, it's probably fine. But the position delta probably should still be in the forward direction as well. Because, yeah, let's do this. Like, attack sphere or something, enemy damage sphere. So I have this forward offset, but I think if we just take this out and we multiply the position delta by the forward vector, that's going to work out a lot better. So I guess we can get rid of this pin. I think this is a better way of doing it. We're just going to fuck up some of the other attacks because this one is not going to have a forward offset now. Yeah. But this one will work a lot better now. In theory. Except not really. Why is that? No, that actually requires a lot more math, doesn't it? Does it? Yes, it does, I think. Okay, how are we going to do this? I didn't think we would be doing this today, so I didn't really think this through at all. What is the most logical? I like the idea of just using the position delta. To be clear. Like, I like that idea. But then what? My brain's not braining enough. Let's ask ChatGPT if it has an idea, because it's just math. Not exactly like highly copyrighted stuff. I have a vector 3 as a position delta, and I have a forward vector. I want that position delta to apply in the forward direction. Instead of simply in world space. I'm just going to add that I'm working in Unreal. I'm working in Unreal Engine. You need to transform the delta from local space relative to the forward vector to world space. Yes, I do. Yeah, so it gets the forward delta forward is the forward vector multiplied by the dot product of the delta and the forward vector. Okay, so we have the delta and the forward vector, so we can get a dot product. But that's just... That doesn't make sense, my dude, because that is just a fucking... float. A dot product is a 0 to 1 value. Gives the magnitude delta along forward vector. Multiplying forward vector by this magnitude gives you the forward delta. Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. So we... no, it doesn't. Multiplying forward vector by this magnitude gives you the forward delta. So that's what I have. The part of delta that assigns forward vector in space. So yeah, okay. Use the dot product node to get the component of delta and the forward vector direction. Connect delta and forward vector to the dot product. Yes. Multiply the forward vector by the result of the dot product. Use multiply. the result will be transformed delta along the forward direction. If you say so, I think that that's not how that works. But you seem to be adamant that it is, ChatGPT. So we're going to try this. If you want to delta the factor to... But well, actually, no, because this is a different magnitude. So it's not going to be a 0 to 1 value, is it? A dot product is only a 0 to 1 value if they have the same like total magnitude. If these magnitudes are wildly different, the dot product can actually be any fucking number. So I think that this does, in fact, work. So let's just give this a shot. That seems to work, I think. Maybe. Can you maybe pay attention to me? I need you to... I think that works. I also think that it may be not like the way I thought it would. Because it certainly seems like... Let's go back to like attack L and attack R, right? Yeah, I don't think this is working. I'm going to be real with you. I don't think that that's like at all working. Yeah, you're just kind of full of shit, aren't you? Straight up just doesn't do anything like that. Yeah, so that's just not correct. Give me another solution. If you have a delta vector and want to apply the forward direction of a forward vector, you can transform the delta to align it with the forward direction rather than directly applying the dot products. That's what I want. So what you actually want is for the to rotate the delta. Yeah, kind of. But the dot product thing should work. Maybe I just need this to... I feel like I need to multiply by this. Hold on. I feel like... Oh. Hold on. I might be yeah, I think I'm multiplying this twice by the forward vector. Okay, so maybe actually it's me being the issue, as usual. Maybe ChatGPT was just right. Let me try that again. I can actually just check this in the animation preview. Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't me. Because this is still... Oh, hold on. It might be... No. Unless active forward vector is just 0, 0, 0 in the animation preview, which it might be. Yeah, I think it might be. But that's annoying in an entirely like different way, because now I can't preview it. But it did work when I did it with the forward offset. So why doesn't it work now? It seems to work in game though, which is like the most important part. But I would very much like it to work in the preview as well. I don't know what's up with any of this. Why does it do this? Also, I have implemented a damage and the damage type within the animation, which I don't know if that's an amazing way to do it. I feel like it's not. Yeah, we probably should revise that as well. I don't think we want that to be the case at all. Think about it. I think what I want to do is when this overlaps, I want to send a message back to the game playability instead. and make that damage it. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. So we'll do that. Owner send gameplay event to actor. Because I think it's even like play basic attack animation is waiting for a specific gameplay event, right? So play attack, basic attack, attack animation and damage. Play animation. Simple play animation, which has attack animation. Play basic attack animation. That's the thing that I wanted. So yeah, it just waits for and deals damage when it receives a gameplay tag, which I think we're just going to make a generic thing. So it's just going to be waiting for attack to be received. So that way this thing can just send a attack message or make a payload. Get rid of all this. Oh, and then we, I guess. Ah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's going to be sending through all the actors that it overlaps with. Except that it doesn't, does it? Because we can just... We're already checking for the first thing that it's... that it's actually supposed to, like, damage. Something that, like, doesn't match it having an enemy tag or not. Which means that it's only going to be ever attacking the first thing here. But I guess that's fine. Alternatively, what we could do is we could make an object pass it through with the array. That's a thing that we could do. But I don't know that I care enough right now. We can do that in the future if we really want to. Well, actually, I guess we can just do this return node at the very end. So that way, the issue is, we'll do it anyway. Now we'll do it here. The issue isn't the return node. The issue is that the gameplay event itself is only going to be waiting for one of them, I think. Unless... this applies damage and the ability. Yeah, if we just don't enable only trigger once, it'll send through this message and trigger the deal damage for it every single yeah. So now it should be able to hit multiple things. I think it's just as easy as that. I think I'm overcomplicating things massively, like thinking about it this much, but we'll be fine. Event tag does not matter actually, because we're already providing it in here. So yeah, that should now... I think it'll still damage us. Let's check, just to be sure. But it'll damage us, and we can set the damage that it deals... yeah, through the gameplay ability itself now, instead of through the animation. Because it's kind of weird to set that through the animation, I think. So let's get rid of all that. It's not the thing that I want to do. Yeah, so the knockback, the radius. No, the radius we actually do want to have in there. The damage type we don't care about. The base damage we don't care about. And I'm going to get rid of the forward offset as well. So we only have the position delta and the radius. Now I just need to position delta to get of its ass and work, which might be... I'm going to print the forward direction, because I think the forward direction for this is just 0, 0, 0. Fantastic. I can't actually read it because there's stuff in front of it. I guess we just set this to like stay on screen a while. Eventually it'll show one of them. But I think that's saying 0, 0, 0, which is... Unless the X is 1 there. I think that X actually is saying 1. Oh, it's might? No, it's just 1. So it should be forward X. Oh, it actually makes sense because... Yeah, no, so... Oh, but it's multiplying it by the forward vector, which means that it's multiplying this by 0. So this one should actually work then, right? But that's multiplying it the other direction, which doesn't make sense because that's X. So like none of this makes sense. Yeah. Let's go for unroad. Get position offset based on forward vector. Just doing it with a float is easy enough, but with a vector it becomes a bit of a headache. Seeing somebody here using look at rotation. That still doesn't actually work. Multiplying the forward vector by this magnitude. So we have this forward vector multiplied by that magnitude, which is... Does it need to be... No, this should do. Let's print out the value of actually what that is. Yeah, no, the creature is rotated the right way. I know that much for sure. So let's just see what the like multiplied like dot product thing does. Can I just like not show all that other information, please? I would very much appreciate that. Or can I print on a different like place on the screen? That would also help. Because this is really annoying. Developer, advanced. Let's just do it this way. I have all the time in the world. Eventually they're going to become readable. And at least now we have some suspense. So yeah, this is now 100, 0, 0. So if we set this to 100, 100, 100, it still prints 100, 0, 0 because it's multiplying it by 100. Can we please just see the... Can we, like, show the grid? Grid. Does that show directionality? It does not, because that would be too nice, wouldn't it? I'm fairly certain that the mesh is facing the right way forward. If I go into here, I don't think this mesh is rotated. Oh, the mesh is rotated. Oh, that's fucked. Oh, but then instead of just getting the actors forward vector, what we can do is we can just get the meshes forward vector. Like, get forward vector for the mesh. Hey, how about you go fuck yourself? Why are you like this? Oh, we also need to like put that in there. That makes sense. So why are you still being a little bitch boy about it? Did that not compile? Is that the issue? No, that's not the issue. Get the forward direction for the component in world space. Yeah, so that's what I want. Yeah, you can scream. I'm also not particularly happy about all this. So it's the X component that is making it go sideways, but that is like not how the X component works. So that's kind of messed up, man. That's kind of messed up. Specifically because if I now go into gameplay, it will work more or less properly, right? It will... No. It will not. The fuck? It does still... Why are you like this? I'm gonna do a thing, and I think that ChatGPT is not gonna be good at this, but I'm gonna send it a screenshot of my blueprint. So I got this, but it's offsetting to the side when I increase the X instead of offsetting it forward. So you got it fucked up, man. Let's see if ChatGPT can interpret blueprint screenshots. Looks like a setup trying to use dot product position delta and forward vector, but actually it does read that properly. Holy hell. Multiplier, which won't give you the correct direction for applying position delta. That's what you told me to do, you fuckhead. Along forward direction. This approach would only give you the magnitude of the projection. That's what I fucking said! Use that to adjust the position delta to correctly move along the forward vector. Normalize the forward vector if it isn't already. The forward vector is always normalized, so get fucked. Multiply the forward vector by the position delta component that you want to apply it along. Typically, this is the X component for the position. Oh, that is a much better way to do that. That is really much smarter. So what we do is we get the position delta, then we split the structure pin. This is the forward vector. Right? So yeah, that... You're still fucked up. We set all these to 0 though, yeah, and then we set this to like 200. Still to the side, man. And it should be using the mesh forward vector. Which, oh, but the mesh's forward vector is that direction, isn't it? Oh, yeah, no, that's totally right, because I do need to, ooh. Oh, that's not good. So I just need to go into the mesh and change its import rotation to -90. That's all I need to do, right? It's a skeleton, maybe. Import, transform. So yeah, the import rotation here should be -90. And then if we go back to, well, maybe we need to re-import now. Hold on, we'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, re-import mesh. There we go. Where the fuck did it go? Oh, it's still importing. Okay. Don't fuck up. Okay, so now it is turned around. So maybe we did have something good working there, but this is not updated. This is not changed. Maybe I need to save it first. No. Animation's just fucked. Is the animation itself also? Yeah, so the animation still has this direction going forward. Do I need to re-import animation? Import failed. Of course it did. It also didn't actually change anything because this, yeah, it didn't actually change anything. Hold on. The fuck are you talking about? Where's the import transform? It's just in details, asset details. No, seriously, where did I set that a moment ago? I am losing my mind. I'm certain that somewhere in here I did set that just now. I think it should be in asset details, but it's just like gone, I guess. Yeah, now the attributes were way less of an issue than, oh, here, there we go. Oh no, that's the bounds extension. The attributes were not that big a deal, and now like this bullshit is kind of throwing me. Unreal skeletal mesh import rotation. That should be the thing that I can change somewhere, right? Skeletal mesh skeleton. Okay. Skeletal mesh skeleton. You can reorient the joints. I mean, I can just kind of like do this, I suppose. Right? Maybe? Is that how that works? I don't think that's how that works, man. I don't think that's how that works at all. This is just a preview, isn't it? Oh, but hold on. This should just be... Why does this default to -90? Well, it's because I just changed that, I guess, but import transform. Somewhere in here it should... I think it's in this tab that I found it, but maybe not. I am so lost. It's in the animation. Oh, you can actually... Animation assets can do it as well. Which is not what I want to do, actually, no. But this also has an import, like, rotation thing? No, it does not. Yeah, it just straight up doesn't. Fucking don't lie to me. I'm so lost. So fucking lost. I don't know what's going on, man. But we will get there. Surely, at some point. Question is if that point is today. For attributes, health, you need to not only have health attribute, but also max health. Yeah, I do.
Hey guys, this is going to...
This is, yeah, that is the static mesh rotation, I know. Like, that's not that big a deal, it's the skeletal mesh. Oh no, this is a skeletal mesh, actually. I don't want to re-import from the FBX file, though. Like, that's the thing. Just show me if there's a, like, dialogue menu. You go back into Blender, that's not what I want, man. Not what I want at all. I just want to go into Unreal, change the settings somewhere. So for example, affect fire pit where health goes down. Oh, hold on. Then you can use post attribute change to clamp the values. Are you watching like an hour behind? You were commenting before as well, aren't you? So maybe you just pause and I'll come back now. I guess. Because we're not working on that anymore and like I have that all set up. Which is actually a good thing to remind me of. I do need to check whether or not I can like overheal, whether or not my clamping works. But I'm clamping my mana, so actually I can check that. Because I should be able to like increase my mana. Yeah, my clamping doesn't work. Good reminder. I need to look into the clamping thing, because the clamping clearly does not seem to be working. I'll look into that in a moment. I just need to figure this out real quick, because this is really fucking dumb that I like had this a moment ago, and now I don't. I guess it might be just this. So let's just set this to like 180 degrees. Do it the other way around and see if like anything changes. Because these don't change, right? So, like, what's up with all that? I guess I can just, like, rotate all my animations. Oh, that's... This is... I mean, I guess that kind of works, but it's still kind of fucked that I have to do it this way. And now, like, yeah, so this is really... Okay, so this is doubly weird now, because... At least that works. Hold on, do the montages apply in local space anyway? Because it doesn't seem like... It doesn't seem like he's doing any weird, like, snapping move or whatever. Yeah, so this is just a preview anyway. Oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We can just, like, do that. I don't mind that at all. Oh, now all of them have that in the previews here as well. Oh, that's... No, but wait. But now you are going the wrong direction. What? No, stop it. Oh, but that's because your position delta there is... Yeah, okay. But position delta works, I think. Yes. So let's make that 75 instead. Okay. I think I've got it all figured out, more or less. Revenge attack montage. I wish it would stay on screen a little longer, but that's fine. I'm going to need to test this in a moment. But I think this is fine. And then we have the... So yeah, this only changes the preview anyway, which is what I wanted. Roar montage, revenge attack montage. Dive down, appear attack. And then we'll look into the thingy, the clamping, because that indeed does not seem to be working yet. Only once we figure out that this is actually, like, fixed. Yeah, that seems fairly fixed, doesn't it? Nope. No, it does not. But now that we have that working, maybe our dot product way does actually work. So let's get the dot product. And multiply, I think it was forward vector by the dot product, right? Because I think that did kind of work before. But now, you don't tell me that they're not. They're offset again. They're fucking offset again. I don't know, man. I'll figure this out later. Let's take a look at the clamping. I think this is not necessary because the character movement component of Void to have negative speed. I don't think that's not at all what we're doing though. Like, this has nothing to do with the speed. What I'm doing is I want to have like a 3-dimensional offset from the character in its forward direction. Like, that's entirely unrelated from the character movement component or its speed. I might also just be doing this on a... Let's... Is there a thing that I'm like overlooking that I can easily like test out whether that would fix it? Because right now I'm using the forward vector for the mesh, but that's actually like just the same as the forward vector. Yeah, it's the x direction, right? Like the local x is the forward vector. Oh, but the local x is... Oh. Yeah, let's check. What the fuck, man? Oh no, that does make sense. Okay. Yes. That does make sense. Okay, so let's get the owner and get the forward vector on that fucker. And then there we go. Is that give any attributes whose value might be like if you I don't know, man. Let's see if this fixes it, because it was actually doing what I told her to do. It's just doing it the opposite fucking direction now. Oh god. What am I doing? So this works. I guess it's just I guess I'm just doing the dot product the wrong way around. Because like the directionality of that does actually like matter. No. Wait. Oh, I might just have one of those with a weird value. That might also be something weird going on there. No, that's just 200. So how does one of these spawn it behind and the other one in front as well? I don't know, man. I think we should look at the clamping instead. And I will figure this out on my own time. Because this is weird. Unless this needs to be multiplied. Hold on. What does it need to be multiplied by? Let's try the ID, because I actually like this more, if this works. Like, if I can just multiply this with the x of the actor's forward vector, that makes more sense to me anyway. And doing this whole weird ass dot product thing. I just don't think that that's like quite how that works, because I think it just makes it like zero out. Yeah, that doesn't quite work, because that way if x is just 0, hold on, make vector node with the values 1, 0, 0 to represent the local forward direction. That's not how that works at all. Oh, maybe it is actually. Set target as your forward vector? No. Oh. Normalize forward vector, multiply the forward vector by the position delta. That's what I have now. Component that you want to apply it along. So let's just print this to see what the hell like it does. Oh, it's already printing it. I'm just an idiot. Okay. What is it printing when I like do this? 0, 0, 0. Well, that's because it doesn't have an offset. Hold on. That prints like minus 200. Can we just get this thing aggro on me again? Always like minus 200-ish. Yeah, this... Am I just losing my mind? Do I just need to multiply these two things together? I feel like I just need to multiply these two things together. That's what I started this as. And I think that's what we're coming back around to. Because I think that's what I need to do. Because I'm fairly certain that that's just how that works. I think that's just how it works, man. Yeah, I think that's just it. I think that works. It's still kind of weird, like how this... That's the thing that threw me, I think. The fact that this was weirdly rotated. Okay, yeah. With that said, we need to look at the clamping. So let's take a look back at attribute stuff. This is the base attribute set. I want to go into my gameplay ability attribute set. So yeah. Different question. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Different question. I want to clamp my gameplay attributes using the gameplay ability system. I wrote this function, but I think I did something wrong and I'm too lazy to fucking look it up. Why Google when we have AI? To properly clamp an attribute, you'll need to do this in pre-attribute change, which allows you... Oh! Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense. We're doing it in post-attribute change, but the new value that doesn't... like at this point, it's already changed. So we need to do it in pre. Which still has the same input parameters, I am fairly certain, right? Attributes, and I'll only float new value, so we only need this. Override is... Let's virtual... what the fuck? Virtual void pre attribute change override. There we go. Generate definition. So there we can check if it is the meta attributes. And then all those that before pre, right? Because yeah, before the super, I mean. Yeah. So we do it in pre instead. Which means that we need to change this as well. So we change this to pre. Take out the old value here. What's the difference between these two? Because it's still like bitching about something. Oh, it's pre-attribute change. But this is called base change, I guess. About what changes? Nothing changes here. Virtual void pre-attribute change const. Oh, is it the fact that it's const? No. Oh, it's a float reference in this one. It's good to just check out what goes wrong. Instead of just changing stuff without knowing what's happening. Pre-attribute change. Let's generate that definition. Don't know what this is all about, but sure. Then in the enemy attribute set, we had this as well. So virtual void I can't fucking type. Virtual void all that, yeah. Okay, that takes care of that, and that should now allow me to no longer overheal. Or rather, it should stop me from overhealing. If you want to have good grammar. Let's see if that has solved it now. I could do it in post instead of in pre. But that would require me to directly set the value again. So I might as well do it in pre because that makes more sense. Okay. This should now no longer allow me to overheal in mana. So it doesn't go over the maximum amount of mana that I can get. It also doesn't take my mana anymore, which is a bit of an issue. At least not with dash. And that also seems to crash things. Fantastic. Oh, that's just because that ability is using an attribute that... Yeah, okay. So there's a few things. Number one, the dash ability needs to be looked at because it's not working properly. Its cost isn't working properly, I should say. Oh, but that might just be because I'm using a different ability that doesn't have that cost. Hold on. Yeah, no, it's just the teleport ability doesn't have that cost associated with it. I'll fix that later. First, what I need to do is I need to check if I just if I just normally hit him, it does still like regain my mana, but it doesn't allow me to like go over my max mana anymore. And that's now baked into the attribute set, so I don't need to do that in every single effect I have anymore either, because that was a nightmare to have to do. So that is kind of cool. All that said, I don't know. And I also can't overheal, which is fantastic. All that said, I would maybe like to have items that do allow you to overheal, but in that case, I will just temporarily increase your max. Max health, I think. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So yeah, that teleport attack was kind of fucked, wasn't it? Teleport. Player teleport. I think I assume it's trying to like either get or set some like knockback values. Yeah, so it's trying to get the base damage. We should just set to like 10 for now. Well, actually, what we should do is we should get your... You probably need to add a piercing damage value to the applied damage as well once we implement that. Anyway, for now, we'll multiply this with strength, because strength is a multiplier. So we'll just multiply damage by strength for the base damage. And then is there any other place that we're doing weird stuff with the attributes? I think not. Yeah, so let's go back in here and just add that in so that we have that. Piercing damage will be a float. And I guess that is a separate bit of damage that will bypass defense, and that means something different in different scenarios, but that's why interfaces are a good thing, because that's what interfaces allow you to do. Taking the same information and do different stuff with it. So yeah, I think what we do is piercing damage we'll always just like provide it in, and then we'll on the receiving side do 1 plus piercing damage, so that it always does at least 1. And then the normal damage calculation we'll do other stuff with. I think that's the way we're going to do this. So it is going to be additive. So let's get piercing damage, and that just gets applied in there. No one needs to go into like a bunch of different abilities to update that as well, because of course I do. But that should work for now. And the reason that I do need to do that for every ability, even the abilities that don't have it themselves, is if you have like an ability or an effect active through like a magic spell that you activated, which is one of the ideas that I have. This would need to be something. So what we're going to do is, if the ability itself has a value for it as well, we would just add something to it, but it's always going to be based on that attribute. But I think that's the only thing that could have been causing the crash here, so let's test that real quick. No, not that one, this one. Nope, there's still something else causing a crash. It's a null pointer. What could be pointing to null? That is a good question. What could be pointing to null? I don't know. Legitimately, I'm not sure. But it must not be on the receiving side, because normal attacks don't crash, right? But none of this, like montage to play. We have that and it loads them in, and it doesn't like progress until it's completed. On and ability, yeah, weapon trail active. I don't think that does anything anymore. Maybe it does, I don't know. Oh, update damage. Oh, it might be this. Yeah. We don't need to do that anymore. Points refactoring codes, always a lot of fun. Let's see. And we don't crash anymore. Fantastic. Now, the $1 million question. Does this one immediately work as well? It does. This one is done sensibly, apparently. That's fantastic. Okay. Let's go back into the base sword attack then. Base sword. Sword attack base. Sword attack base. Because here we also need to, when we apply damage, like somewhere down the line here, I think it is. Surely it's somewhere here. There we go. We can, like, while we're doing this, we need to multiply this damage by strength anyway. Do we have, can we just, like, get ability? System component from, like, self? In this case, because it is technically, we'll just do it this way. It might work on self, because it is, it might implement it to get it from its owner, which would be the character, but this is just better to do it anyway. Get attribute as float. The attribute that we'll get will be the damage. Strength is what I mean, because we're going to be multiplying damage by strength. Put that in there, and then for piercing damage, we'll just get piercing damage. And I guess we'll add to that a variable. Piercing damage. Misspelled, but who cares? Let's see. Maximum attack range. Do we even use that anymore? I think we may not. We can actually just get references to it by name. I think we're doing something else with this anyway. Are we doing this somewhere else as well? When we're outside the maximum attack range, let's get rid of it and just see what happens. How about it? Because frankly, like, if we're outside of the attack range anyway, I think we don't have, like, a closest enemy anyway. And if we do have a closest enemy, we do always want to be attacking toward it. Right, so do we have enemy location? Like, do we set that anywhere? I guess we set it, like, near the beginning somewhere. I think this is the way we want to do it. So yeah, if it's not valid, we just don't set actor rotation. That's fine. Where's the other instance of it? Did I just remove it? I think I just removed the other instance of it as well. That's entirely fine. Yes, I think it did. Dash duration, that's fine. I probably should categorize these at some point. Freeze rates, I'm going to get rid of as well, because I don't think I use that anymore either. It was a nice ID, but I don't think it really worked that well, to be honest with you. Which means that we don't need to reset time dilation either. The slash particles, I think we do that based on the animation now, so don't need that either. Weapon sound and grunt sound we definitely do. Maybe we should do that in animation too. I think it might make more sense to move that to animation at some point too. So that we only have this one thing in here. But we have damage, gravity scale cache, which we do use. It's just not, like, exposed, but that's fine. Same with this. Knockback, enemy location. Do we use enemy location at all? Get enemy location. Oh yeah, but we don't set it anywhere. So that's kind of messed up. So we just get actor location here instead. So we can get rid of the enemy location variable. Increase attack counter, yes. Damage type, yeah. Okay. I think we just cleaned up this as far as like variables go a little bit. And I think at some point I will move over the sounds to the animations as well. Because that way I also have some more control over when exactly they play. Because now they just always play at the beginning of the animation, which is a little like bothersome in some ways, I think. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our like the major part of the rework for all the attributes and all that kind of stuff. Going forward is going to be a lot easier. And we now actually are like applying our modifiers as well to stuff, which is good. For most of the attacks anyway. I'm going to need to go over effectively all my abilities to just check if I've forgotten anything. But that's just kind of the reality of making a video game. Anyway, I think this is a pretty decent point to wrap up for the day. And we'll be back on Tuesday. It's Thursday today, right? Yeah. Okay, so we'll be back next Tuesday with some more. Where we'll probably will be doing some magic abilities, because that is probably one of the next things to look at. It's one of the reasons that like this may have been the proper choice to do today after all. I complained about it a little bit on Discord. But again, I don't put things into polls if I don't actually want to be doing them, so it's not that big a deal. But now that we have all this in place, we can do some other stuff with the magic abilities without me saying, well, we can only do the next magic ability once we have the attribute rework, because now the attributes have been reworked. And if something isn't correct, we can just immediately fix it instead of pushing it off saying, well, that's an entirely like different thing to do for a different day. I also need to go through every single animation on every single one of my enemies, but this is probably more of a like, let's do this off stream kind of thing. But I need to go through all of these dudes and go through their animations and set up their like hitboxes, like their damage boxes, because at the moment they don't have those. or most of them don't have those, I should say. Like if I just go into like the basic attack for this dude, I think it's in here actually, yeah. You can see that the scale for these are also kind of messed up. But this is, yeah, it's probably the wrong direction as well, because that's just kind of how I do apparently. Let's set this to like 100 and see. Yeah, so for this one as well, I would need to take this and like rotate around to -90 to get a good idea of them. And then this one also has the issue that the scale is all kinds of messed up, but we can compensate for that, I believe, because we have the scale of the mesh inside of the actual character blueprint. And if I just go in here, and it says scale 100, but it's like scale 49. 100 probably just means 1. I just realized. So let's copy and oh, hold on. That's why. Let's paste that. Ooh, that's also not good. It's 0.49, I think. Yeah, no, that's like super messed up the way that works. What? Oh, it's just linked, so I just do. No, it's not. Okay, so the scale for this is just... What the fuck? I guess I set the scale in like global space, and I need to make sure to like lock them so it does all of them at the same time. But then it does... What the hell, man? It might be because this is already changed. Yeah, so the scale for a lot of these characters is also just like straight up kind of messed up, to be honest. So that's just going to be I have to kind of figure it out. As I go along kind of deal. And that takes a while. So that feels like I'll just do that with like a podcast on my own time. But for the most part, like I think this one now just works again. Aside from the fact that I think this probably should be like up a little higher. Wait, does the Z direction not work? Oh, fuck, that Z direction doesn't work. Why doesn't the Z direction work? Oh, because it's 0. It's multiplying by 0. Fuck. Still doesn't work. Well, that is quite important, isn't it? I don't know, man. I'll figure it out at some point. Probably gonna have to go back to like the whole dot product thing, but at this point don't know that I want to spend some more time on that. Let's just try it one time. Enemy sphere detection, because right now it's just, yeah, so it's the forward vector if it has a 0 in it, which it will always for the up direction. Position delta is just going to get cancelled out. So what we do need to do is use that dot product. So that does make sense. It also has like this rotation thing, but that's even more fucked. So the forward delta will be the, let's close this. Forward delta as forward vector times, so it's forward vector times the dot product of the delta and the forward vector. That supposedly should, or maybe I set this to, yeah, I set this to a very high number now. It still doesn't, like, where even does it draw this now? What the fuck? Why does it draw this at like 10,000 height? Oh, it's the forward vector multiplied by that. Yeah. So, but now it just renders it at 0 again, because why the fuck wouldn't it? Because it multiplies it by the forward vector. The forward vector is always going to be 0 z, so that doesn't work. Know how this works. Yeah, I'm stuck on this again. I'm going to be stuck on this for the rest of my life. Given in Unreal, what the fuck is happening there? Given an actor's forward vector and a vector for a position offset, how do I make the position offsets apply in the forward direction offset actor? Get the actor's forward vector, multiply the offset by the forward vector. Yeah, but the issue is if the add the offset to the actor's position. Yeah, but if any of the components of the forward vector are 0, the offset in that direction will get entirely set to 0. You'll want to rotate the offset vector by the actor's rotation rather than directly scaling it to its forward vector. Okay, so can you rotate vector? Is that a thing you can do? Like position delta, rotates. You can rotate a vector by quaternion. Okay, but then we takes in a quaternion, but I don't think that's just going to take in our rotation, is it? Get actor rotation. That's not going to put it, that will. Okay, so you can just get the quaternion out of that rotation. That's fantastic. So that should just do it now. So we are using the rotators, which makes sense because that's what they're designed to do. Okay, yes. Does this work? We fucking got it. It works. Holy shit. Look at that. It does the thing. It does the thing. We figured it out. And now I can die in peace. So, see you guys on Tuesday. Bye.